How's it going, everybody? So this is another science news video. I'm following the scientific literature in fish biology, and once in a while I come across a paper which is so interesting that I think the viewers of my YouTube channel, you, would be interested. And so I'm trying to explain this in a way that's not dumbed down, but that is accessible to a general lay audience, to people who might not be familiar with all the jargon. So the paper I want to talk about today is by Brownstein, and it's about the deep sea anglerfishes. Now, if you're a scuba diver and ocean enthusiast, you probably know the shallow water anglerfishes or the frogfishes. So these are fascinating animals. They're highly camouflaged, and really they walk often rather than swimming, even though they can swim, but they prefer to walk. Now, we will come back to this later. Now, there is a deep sea anglerfish family called the Ceratioidea, and scientific names need to be pronounced with a German accent in case you were not sure. Now, then these deep sea anglerfishes have this very curious life history, which is they have sexual parasitism, and that is actually as bad as it sounds. So in this case, the males, which are tiny, attach themselves to the females, which are volleyball or medicine ball sized, and then they remain attached to the females. Why do they do that? Because they live in these pelagic deep sea habitats in midwater in very deep oceans, and the chances to actually finding a mate a second time are very small for the males, so they might as well stick with a female they found. And there are attachments like this which are permanent, and attachments which are temporary, where they do fall off again after a while, the males. Now, what is new in this study by Brownstein et al.? They did a very thorough analysis of the relationships, the phylogenetic relationship, which species are closest to each other in evolution of these anglerfishes. And they also, for the sake of completion, they also looked at pufferfishes and, outgroups, sister groups to the anglerfishes. And they looked at these ultra-conserved elements in the genomes. So with that, they did a very thorough job in using a lot of data and trying very hard to get their statistics really right. So this is very complicated in terms of the mathematics to make these trees. Now, what did they find? A couple of really interesting things. So first of all, it seems that, this first colonization of the pelagic deep sea, of the midwater in the deep sea, happened about 50 to 35 million years ago. And this was during a period where the temperatures of planet Earth were rather warm. So, of course, now we have man-made global warming, and back then this had, geological reasons. So during that time, they took this step, and the step was that these, bottom-living, walking anglerfish in the deep sea became secondarily free-swimming. So, it's almost like, and they make that point in the paper, with whales. Whales, of course, originally were, ancestral to them were these walking land mammals, and then they gave up walking and took up swimming. Same thing with these deep sea anglerfishes. And they, by doing a very thorough job with the relationships between these anglerfishes and looking at a number of genes and looking at the habitats of the species and of the families they investigated, by doing that, they could conclude that this step from being walking bottom-living fishes to being in this deep sea open water habitat, which is the largest habitat on Earth. So that's a huge opportunity for a group of animals. Taking these steps was done synergistically by two ecological, evolutionary innovations, and one is that this size dimorphism played a big role. And that what the size dimorphism mean, right? It's like that's how biologists call the fact that in these animals, the females are much bigger than the males, and this is even the case in animals, in anglerfishes, which don't have this sexual parasitism. So this is something that already was there, for evolution to be exploited. And the other factor, which was necessary for getting the sexual parasitism started, was that the immune system of these fishes is degraded. So why is that important? Well, what does an immune system do? It distinguishes between self and non-self, between your own body and another body. Now, normally, the immune system wants to take out viruses and bacteria and parasites. But in this case, these males essentially fuse with the females. So the body of the male and the female have to not have a reaction where they repress, where they fight the body of the other when they're fusing like this. Very romantic, if you think about this. Now, so they can tell that in the genomes of these fishes, that a lot of these immune genes, which are very numerous in vertebrates, they have degraded in these. So the main point of the paper is that this step from the bottom of the sea to being free swimming in this mid-water, deep water habitat, this step necessitated the synergy between two innovations. One is the size dimorphism, small males, large females. Number two is the fact that there are very reduced genes in terms of the immune system. So difference in size and low immune system, that made it possible to have that sexual dimorphism. The sexual dimorphism then only really, the sexual parasitism then only really made it possible to conquer this habitat, because without that it would be difficult to find proper mates at a rate which is sustainable. So a highly interesting paper, and this essentially the lesson here is that if you have an evolutionary colonization of a new habitat, often one innovation is not enough, but there needs to be a synergy between two. Enjoyed reading this paper, and the figures are also excellent in making the points which the authors make, with their scientific work. Again, it shows what powerful tools we now have as biologists when analyzing these whole genomes. That really produces a lot of very good knowledge, and when cleverly combining that then with an analysis of the habitats and the niches of these animals, that can give very good insights. So I will, of course, in the coming weeks, post more original footage from underwater in the Philippines. It will not all be blah blah of me, but I still hope you enjoyed this insight into news from fish biology, and see you soon.